Good evening. Welcome to Noble TV. We are the Chicago chapter of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. I'm John Franklin, and thanks for tuning in. Today we'll be talking with Mitchell Davis, who is the chief of the Hazel Crest Police Department. But before we get started, let me remind you that you can watch us here at CAN-TV 21 or by watching the internet at cantv.org/hotline. Now, this is a live interactive show, and you are welcome to make calls at 312-738-1060. And we'll be taking some calls shortly. First of all, thank you, Chief Davis, for being here today.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you.
Appreciate it.
Briefly, can you tell our viewers about your law enforcement career? Because you've been a lot of places.
I have been blessed to have been several places. My law enforcement career started back in 1991 in the Park Forest Police Department, which is in the south suburbs. Right. Most of my time there I was in the investigative division, but after about 10 years I left there in 2001 to take my first police chief's job at the village of Dixmoor. I grew up in the south suburban area, and a guy that I grew up with got elected mayor and brought me in as police chief.
Probably a good choice.
I believe it was. I believe it was. It was a great experience. Afterwards, I ended up being police chief in the village of Robbins, and I spent a few years in the village of Robbins, and most recently, as you just said, I'm the police chief in the village of Hazel Crest, and I've been there almost a year.
Well, are you the first African-American chief full-time in the village of Hazel Crest?
There have been a couple chiefs that were there on an interim basis prior to myself, but I am the first one. Yes,
oh, excellent. Okay. Now, what are the biggest issues facing you right now in the village of Hazel Crest? You've got, what, about 17,000 residents, right?
Yes.
So what are the biggest issues you're seeing right now? You've been there for about a year. What are you seeing as the biggest issues challenging you right now in your agency?
You know what? We have some tremendous officers who've done a tremendous job with our community, and just trying to nurture that relationship that they've developed with the community even more, and just letting the community know in Hazel Crest that the police department is there to serve them, and we're there to do everything that we possibly can to address their needs and their wants.
Well, that is fantastic. Now, you have, what, 17,000 residents, you said?
Yes.
And about how many square miles out there?
About 3 square miles out there, yes.
And how large is your agency?
We have 30 sworn officers in our agency. We also have a full-time community service officer. We have 2 part-time officers, and there's the chief and 2 deputy chiefs.
Oh, excellent.
Yes.
Now, I know you're very close to an officer, Tim Jones of the Park Forest Police Department. Now, I remember Officer Jones was a rookie officer, and he was shot and seriously injured, I believe, in March of this year while responding to a call. And I know he's had a rough time trying to recover from his injuries. And I know you're close to the family. So can you share with our viewers some kind of background on that incident?
For sure. Tim Jones, I'm close to his mom and dad. Actually, his dad was a police officer for me. His dad currently is the police chief in the village of Country Club Hills.
Okay.
And he used to be one of my police officers when I was chief in Dixmoor. Mm-hmm. And his mom was actually my administrative assistant. Oh, okay. So I know his parents personally. Well. But earlier this year, in the village of Park Forest, Tim was working, and he actually was not even assigned to this particular call. There was a call of an unwanted person in a building where surrounding neighbors were saying that, hey, this house is supposed to be vacant, but there's somebody actually in the house, and they call the police. Police get there, they see a vehicle in the driveway, and they run the plate. The vehicle comes back stolen. Mm-hmm. So they asked for additional units, and Tim is one of the people that actually ended up responding. It wasn't even his call. He was one of the people that set up a perimeter around the house, and as they told the suspect to exit the house, he climbed through a window right where Tim was stationed on his perimeter. And Tim was a college football player, and the guy took off trying to run, and Tim actually tackled him. And as he tackled him, the guy pulled out a stolen what we found to be a stolen handgun, and he actually shot Tim twice, one through the skull and went through his brain. Officer Jones was able to return fire and actually able to shoot the suspect, and the injuries that he inflicted on the suspect actually kept him from escaping.
Well, it's very sad to hear about how his struggle to recover from such debilitating injuries. How's he doing today?
He's progressing. You know, he's got a long way to go, but the doctor said that he probably wouldn't even survive the initial incident. So, it's just the grace of God that he's been able to proceed the way that he has. He was in the hospital. He's been in rehabilitation. He's still in rehabilitation right now, but he's doing great things. He's doing normal things.
Excellent. Now, I understand you're working on some kind of a Christmas gift for Tim. Tell us about that.
Well, you know what? It's interesting. His mom and I are friends on Facebook, and they are by his side all the time. And on Sunday, she was putting up a post just saying, "Hey, I'm waiting on my church's streaming broadcast to come on." And while I'm sitting here, she says, "Tim gave me said that he told me what his Christmas list is," and she puts his Christmas list. And so I sent her a message and I say, "Hey, he actually said this?" She said, "Yeah." She says, "I'm just trying to show people how normal he is now. He's doing normal things now." And I said, "Well, you know what? You don't need to worry about that Christmas list. There's enough people out here who love him and who are behind him that we're going to coordinate things and make sure that we fulfill that Christmas list."
So you got a bunch of other law enforcement people who are going to play Santa this year for Tim.
Yeah, Noble is going to end up playing a part. South Suburban Police Chiefs Association is, and we're going to put it out there for whoever would like to help this young man.
That is fantastic.
Yes.
That is great. Well, good for you. That's great. Now, how long have you been involved with Noble? Because I know you have a long history with Noble also.
I actually, when I became police chief back in 2001, I joined Noble, the Chicago Metropolitan Chapter at that time, and actually I became the chapter president back then. And in 2003, I became the chapter president. I also helped on a national level. Prior to being a police chief, I actually was a computer programmer. And back then, the National Noble was involved with an initiative called LEATS, where Law Enforcement Information Technology Standards Board. And because of my computer programming background, I represented the national office on that committee.
Now, what is your role in Noble today?
Right now, I am on the executive board as the parliamentarian for the Chicago Metropolitan Chapter, and it's just an honor to serve because the chapter is doing great things, and it's just great to be a part of that.
Well, listen, on behalf of Noble, we're glad you're still involved.
Yes, sir.
Look like we have a call, Chief, so we're going to take it. Hi, good evening.
Hi, I just want to say thank you to Chief Davis for agreeing to be on Noble TV. But my question is, how is Noble and the things that Noble is doing able to collaborate, with the suburban police department?
Okay, that's a good question.
It is. You know what? As the chapter is called the Chicago Metropolitan
Right.
Chapter, so it's not just
It's
for
not just Chicago.
So we have a lot of chiefs from from suburbs all around the Chicagoland area. But because the people in our chapter are so active, we're able to partner with Noble, once again the South Suburban Chiefs Association, with our departments directly, and we've been able to do some tremendous things by utilizing the resources of Noble and through those organizations that are in the suburbs, and it's been great.
And it's going to continue to get better. And thank you, caller, for that comment. Now, you've been involved in many initiatives that Noble supports, such as the law in your community. And I know that's a big deal out in the south suburbs right now.
Yes, it
So
is.
tell us about that. Tell our viewers about that.
The law in your community actually, it's been an initiative that Noble's had for a long time. It used to be called the Law on You. But because of incidents that have gone on in recent years between law enforcement and people in minority communities, the law in your community has become in the forefront. And what the law in your community does is we go and we talk to different groups. We go to grade schools, go to high schools, we talk to community organizations, and we talk to them about dealing with the police, about learning about the law itself, and just learning about every aspect and being able to bridge the gap between law enforcement and educating the community and just being able to bring ourselves together.
Now, it's a good resource for you guys out in the south suburbs, right?
Most definitely.
Have you had a good turnouts when you presented the law in your community out there?
We had a huge, at South Suburban College, we had 1,000 high school students come out
Wow,
a few
that's a
months
lot.
ago.
That's a
1,000 high school students from a couple different school districts came out, and we had a presentation out at South Suburban College, and we had national news media there, and it was received very well, and the young people just hearing their response just shows that we're on the right track and we're doing the right things.
That's fantastic. Now, I understand that you have also traveled to Detroit and other places to teach the laws in your community.
Yes.
Now, where have you gone with this? I know you've gone to Detroit. What other municipalities have you gone outside of Illinois?
Well, you know what? I was at a training class last week with some Noble members from Indianapolis.
Oh, okay.
And they're going to be seeking for us to come down there to do some training. I've got certified as a trainer to train the trainers. So I had the opportunity to go to Detroit, and going to also be going to Indianapolis and other places.
Great. Hey, again, I want to remind our viewers that Noble is live here at CAN TV 21 every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Please call them with your questions. Again, at 312-738-1060. Chief, it looks like we have another caller. Caller, hello? Hello?
Hi. Uh, Hi, this question is for Chief Davis. Just wondering, what is Noble's involvement in addressing the community's concerns, specifically the African American community, around the many police shootings that have happened in recent weeks?
Good question.
Great question. What Noble is doing is we're in the forefront of actually, we're not hiding behind what's going on. We're moving forward, and when the community needs for people to come out, they call our chapter president, and we send representatives out, and we go and we answer the questions that the community wants to have answered. We educate the community, and we understand that there's flaws in the system and that there are things that need to change in law enforcement, and then it's our responsibility, being African American law enforcement executives, to hold our profession accountable for the things that need to be changed.
Most definitely. Thank you, caller. Great question. Looks like we have another one, Chief. Hello. Good evening.
Hi, I have a quick question. I know that you guys do a lot in the community, but I wanted to know, is there any way that community members can get involved with Noble and do like community service or things of that nature?
Oh, most definitely. Go ahead, answer that. Yes, that's a great question.
Well, Noble is not just for law enforcement. If you want to be involved in what we're doing as far in Noble, you do not have to be a police officer. You can come on out and we can make sure that we get you involved in what we're doing. So you do not have to be a police officer. The things that we're doing, if you have things that you would like to partner with us on in the community, we'll be able to do those things. We have a driving simulator program that we have a grant for, and we have several different initiatives that we can work with the community on.
Thank you for your call, caller. Now, Chief, you have also written several articles, correct? Which
Yes,
have been
sir.
published. Tell us about these articles you've written.
I wrote a couple articles, and the first one was published. The Illinois Training and Standards Board has a division called the Executive Institute. And the Executive Institute, a couple times a year, publishes a scholarly publication called the Executive Forum. And I had an article published in there earlier this year called the Reality That Creates the Perception, an African American law enforcement executive's perspective of the relationship between the black community.
Right, there's been a lot of talk on that. That was a very good presentation from what I hear. A lot of good feedback on that one.
I appreciate that. Well, as a result of that, I was asked to develop a class kind of along that same lines, and I taught that class at a Midwest conference that the Illinois Police Chiefs Association has. So we're addressing the issues like implicit bias and those things that need to be addressed.
Now, you regularly represent President Williams and the Chicago chapter of Noble on panel discussions, talk shows, other speaking engagements, and that's quite an honor to be so highly regarded within the law enforcement community. And I have to really just give you a lot of accolades for that. We're really proud of what you're doing out there. You're quite a trailblazer, from what I can tell.
Well, I appreciate that. I just appreciate the president entrusting me to represent the organization. I do what I do because I love it. And, when you're doing the right thing, you don't have to hide behind what you do. And
Agreed.
It's just an honor to do that.
Agreed. Looks like we have another caller, Chief. Hi, good evening. Welcome to Noble TV.
Yes, good evening. Just to say I'm super proud of the things that you guys are doing in Noble. I guess my question would be is, with all of these officer shootings, do you think that this is a training issue and that we could be trained out of this issue?
Good question.
I think the things that are going on, in my personal opinion, I believe that some things that are going on are due to various factors. Training is some of it, but some of it has to do with competency levels and just what officer, and I guess ultimately it comes down to training, but if you're training people properly, they're going to have the fundamentals to fall back on when things go bad. I like to compare it to, when you learn how to play basketball, when you get to the highest levels, they still work on their dribbling. They still
Right.
work on the fundamentals, because in the heat of battle, you can
That's what
always
you
go
fall
back to your
yes.
fundamentals.
You
So
always
it's a
fall back
matter
in
of
your
us
training.
doing that, yes.
Most definitely. Most definitely. And also, proper screening of the people that are coming into your agency. I can't overstress that enough either. You have to really look deeply into people's backgrounds to make sure you're getting the best for your applicants, for your eligibility.
Yes.
You can't shortcut on that at all. But thank you for your call, caller. That was a great question.
Yes.
You and Chief Greg Baker of South Holland, you guys represent the Chicago chapter of the NBC5 Community Affairs Board. Excuse me. What does that group do with regard to the Community Affairs Board?
You know what? The NBC5 Community Action Board is a tremendous thing. so often, especially with law enforcement, the media and law enforcement don't always have a great relationship. And what NBC5 said is that, hey, we don't want to just report all the bad things that are going on. We want to have influential people and people who are involved in things in our community come together with our station, and when positive things happen, they have a direct pipeline for us to be able to come out and expose those things. So NBC5 has just been tremendous. And whenever we as Noble or in law enforcement have something going on that's not the headline stuff that everybody wants to see, they are more than willing to come out and support us, and it's been great.
You guys have been involved with the Community Affairs Board with NBC for some time. How many years now? At least, what, 4 or 5?
Chief Baker has been on there longer than I have. I've been on there for the last year.
Right.
Yes.
Now, as a member of the Hazel Crest PD and their chief, you're also a member of the South Suburban Association of Chiefs of Police, as I once was when I was chief of Dalton.
Yes, sir.
What is your role there currently with SSA COP?
I am on the executive board there also. I'm currently
Another feather, huh?
Yes, sir. Currently, I'm the treasurer there, and actually, currently, Chief Baker is the president.
Oh,
so,
wow, okay.
you know, that we're on the executive board, and the way it works is eventually, in a few years, I'll end up working my way up to president.
And you're still having your monthly meetings out in Allsup, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, Chief Davis, there are many issues facing law enforcement agencies right now in the present that flow down to the future, mainly transparency, changes in some long-standing policies, adequate funding of benefits like pensions, and successful recruitment of qualified candidates to fill the ranks of those who either retire or decide to leave the police profession. Now, I just read in the news that over 99 officers have resigned from the Dallas PD over the last few months. Yeah. And I believe just a few days ago, we've just seen a town marshal in Indiana, just outside Indianapolis, resign, as well as 4 city marshals there. What's going on in law enforcement? How can we reverse this trend? It seems like while we're trying to reel people back into the ranks of law enforcement, it seems like a lot of people are rushing to get out. What's going on here?
You know what? This is we're at a fork in the road now. There's times in life when, you know, cultures have to change. Mm-hmm. And right now, the police department and law enforcement has a culture that's got to change, and not everybody is up for that change. You know, I kind of look back on the thing that changed the civil rights movement in the 60s was when things were on television. Correct. When people saw how they were the people who were protesting were getting beat and things, that brought the hearts of everybody in the country together to back them up. Mm-hmm. And what's happening right now is with smartphones and things to that effect, people are seeing things that have been going on for some time, but they're now seeing it visibly around the country. Right. So it's forcing law enforcement now to make changes, and not everybody's accepting.
To take a hard look at what we're doing, yes. Why are we doing it, and if it's not something we should be doing, why aren't we changing it?
Exactly.
Now, I just noticed body cams. Everybody's wearing them. Does Hazel Crest PD have body cams yet?
No, we do not, and most suburban towns don't have them. One of the biggest challenges, and this is, you know, folks think that, you know, it's just a matter of buying a camera. It's not that simple.
It's a huge expenditure in your budget. It's a
huge expenditure because, you know, especially with FOIA, when you get video, people want video. So you have to store the video, so you got to hire a person just to do that. You got to hire somebody to be able to answer all the FOIA requests, and it's just a huge undertaking, and it's not just as simple as purchasing cameras. If it were, it would be more widespread, but because that you know, we're already strapped for finances, right. It's hard to do that.
And that storage and documentation and cataloging of data is a huge expenditure. Yes. I want to make sure the public understands it's not just getting the cameras, it's keeping that data, cataloging it. Who are you going to hire to do that? It's a huge expenditure. Looks like we got another caller, so let's go ahead and take it, shall we? Right. Hi, good evening.
Hey, how you doing, gentlemen?
All right, fine. And you? How are you this evening?
I'm great. I came in kind of late on the show, so upset I missed a few things, but I had a question regarding hiring. Any plans, numbers in the future for the department?
Well, I can tell you right now, as far as Chicago PD, we have an ongoing registration for the upcoming Chicago Police exam, which will be in April of next year. And you can register for that online at chicagopolice.org, or you can go onto the City of Chicago website. And that's going to go on until, I believe, January 30th, and register for the upcoming exam, which will be in April of next year. What's going on with Hazel? You guys putting together an eligibility list anytime soon?
Actually, that's a great question, because we have an existing new hire list that will be good for another year. But We're in the process. I just got approval to hire a couple people, so I'm going to be actually formulating a lateral hire list, and I haven't even publicized. This is the first that has been said, so we will be doing that soon. If you take a look on the most common places for advertising, the Blue Line, theblueline.com and things like that, we will be putting that out soon.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, caller. Excellent question. Looks like we have another one, Chief, so let's go ahead and take it. Hi, good evening. Welcome to Noble TV.
Yes, sir. How you guys doing today?
Fine, and
Great,
yourself?
great.
Your question or comment?
Yes, sir. I actually was going to get into law enforcement, but instead I became a truck driver. And I live in Milwaukee, but however, I'm in a hotel right now. But my point was, we need police officers, and it's unfortunate. I heard about the 99 police officers in Dallas that, have resigned. But, it seems like the culture has got to change because, we do have good and bad in every race because there's humanity. We have a lot of people. We're going to have bad guys, but yeah, we definitely need police officers because, civilians have to be protected. And, without police officers, this whole country will collapse. So, I definitely appreciate, the dialogue that you guys are, putting out there. So love the program, even though I just got here. I was just tuned in and I stayed on here. So I'll sit back and I'll just monitor you guys. And God bless y'all. Take it easy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It's great to hear people that still support the police and still support law enforcement in general.
And most people do.
Yeah. So you're going to be giving another test next year, huh? You said?
Actually, soon we'll be doing. We're going through a process to set up a lateral list. Once again, our existing list for new hires will be good for another year, but we need some officers now, and we can't afford to take the time that it takes to
Put them in the academy and
train
6 months from down the road. Yeah.
Right.
And that does take a lot of time.
Yes, sir.
Looks like we have one more caller, so let's go ahead and take it, Chief. Hi, good evening.
Good evening. I just want to compliment the Chief of Policemen. I'm 73 years old, and I think you're doing a great job for Hazel Crest.
Thank you.
That's so
Thank you
kind
so
of you.
much.
You're doing a great job, and I want to say something else too. Like the old statement go in the Bible says, you can run, but you can't hide. A lot of these policemen that are leading, they're leading for a reason. They're leading for a reason. What goes on in the dark, it will come to the light. You can believe that. It will come to the light. But Chief of Policeman Hazel Crest, I live out here by Oak Park, and I think you're doing a beautiful job because we don't hear of crime out in Hazel Crest, like you said, the suburban areas and stuff like that. We don't hear those kind of crimes like we have in the city.
Yes, ma'am.
God is with you, and God keep you, and God bless you and your family. You're doing a great job. Be blessed.
And bless you too, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Chief, it appears we have another caller, so let's take it. Hi, good evening. Welcome to Noble TV. Yes, ma'am, or sir?
Hi, good evening. Good evening to you guys. No, it's not a sir. It's madam. But I just wanted to say to the police, I thank God for you, and all the negative that's going around is just that negative. So media needs to take a rest, and kudos to you guys. And please don't take what is out there. Take it and put it in the toilet. You remember what grandparents used to say? Put it in the toilet and flush it. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your comment. Appreciate it. Well, Chief, I'd say you definitely have some admirers out there in the field, and that's a great thing. That's a great thing. When you're the leader of a police agency and people are calling up congratulating you on what you're doing, that's always a benefit.
It definitely is a blessing to have that support.
Now, I want to talk about some of the training you've had as a law enforcement executive. I understand you have also attended Northwestern Staff and Command.
Yes, I did.
And what did you think about that experience? It was 10 weeks, right?
It was.
Yes.
It was. 10-week program through Northwestern University, and it's an intense program, but it's a diverse program, and it challenges you at times. And I went through that program back in 2003. I went through that program, and it definitely has benefited my career.
Yeah, most definitely. I went through in 2010, and the only thing I didn't like, I was elected president of my class, and the other officer, executives from around the country, they all want to see a Cubs game, and I'm a Sox fan.
Ah, okay.
So, but I did manage to compromise.
Okay.
I took them to a Cubs game that was across the street. We went to one of the rooftops.
Okay.
And watched it. I didn't really want to go in Wrigley Field, but we had a great time. So.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, Chief, let me tell you something. It's been a pleasure having you on. From what I heard out there, you're doing an outstanding job.
Thank you so much.
And I think they're very, very fortunate to have you out there. Now, where do you see your career going in law enforcement? Obviously, you're kind of on a fast track here. So where do you see your future?
You know what? I honestly believe that the Lord has called me to address the concerns that we have going on right now with implicit bias. And that's why I've written those articles. That's why I'm teaching the classes. And, you know, it's not popular conversation with everybody.
No, it's not.
But I'm willing to step out there because I've lived it. And I know, once again, I don't think that God has put me in the position that I'm in not to use it to help people out. So that's what I believe. That's where I see my career going, God willing.
You know what I tell my civilian friends is that we are undergoing right now a revolution in policing, whether we want to admit it or not. We're undergoing a revolution in training, in policies, in equipment, in everything. We have never, ever approached the level of transparency that we're at today.
Right.
And it's a good thing.
It is.
It really is a good thing because people need to be involved in their respective law enforcement agencies wherever they live. They need to know their officers. They need to know the command staff. They need to know that if they have an issue, that they need to know who they can talk to, and that the issue is going to be looked at seriously and competently,
Yes.
and that they're going to have, you know, feedback from it. This is not going to disappear in a drawer somewhere and just
Exactly.
become one of a stack.
Exactly.
So it's a good thing overall, and I embrace it. You know, as now I'm an adjunct professor at a college, and I love to see my students get so excited talking to them about their future careers in law enforcement. I've been blessed, and in 5.5 years now, I have 4 students that are Chicago police officers.
Okay.
I have 3 that are suburban officers, and I have 3 that are Cook County sheriffs.
Must have been the instructor.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I'd say that if any kind of small kind of way I might have been ignited the spark within them that made them push forward to go on and do bigger and better things.
Yes, sir.
So, and I have a lot of students now that have signed up for the upcoming Chicago Police exam, and they're really looking forward to taking it and meeting the challenge.
Yes, yes.
So,
And that's a great thing for us to be able to reach back and to help out those folks.
most definitely. That's what I get the most thrill out of is really pulling other people forward into the profession.
Yes, sir.
Well, viewers, looks like our time has run out for today. Thank you, Chief Davis, for being here. It's
Thank you,
been a
Chief.
pleasure
I
having you
appreciate it.
here. Once again, I want to remind you, Noble is the conscience of law enforcement while being committed to justice and action. Thank you to our viewers and callers for joining us. The best way to stay in contact with Noble is by going to our website, noblechicago.org, or like us on Facebook, or at Noble Chicago Metro Chapter. For Noble, this is John Franklin. Thank you for watching. Good night.